Okay, so we are back with Laetitia. If you don't know Laetitia, it's totally normal because she is a speaker out of Bedrock. So thank you very much, Laetitia, coming here and presenting us everything about advanced SQL. So thank you very much. I leave you the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so I will present myself later, but just so you know, I'm into SQL and I wanted to learn more advanced SQL, but in a cool way. And that's where I decided to took that path. And actually, I'm pretty proud of myself. So that's why I wrote that talk. So first, something you need to know is my slides are clean. Most of the time, there is barely no text on them. Why do I do that? Because I found out that when I was delivering a talk with bullet points, people were reading my slides and not listening to me. And I'm a mom, and it's infuriating when people don't listen to me. So I removed all text, which is great for me, not so great when I want to share my slides, and not so great for sometimes you have a bad day, you really need these bullet points to follow. Sometimes my accent is shitty, you can't understand me correctly, so you need these bullet points. Maybe you have hearing issues, maybe you have ADHD or any other disorder that makes it really valuable for you to have the bullet points. That's why I share another version of my slides with the bullet points. But the ones, so you're very welcome to get there, get them on your phone, on your laptop, and so on. And I'm very happy if it helps you following the topic. A little about myself. My name is Laetitia AVROT. And I work for EDB. EDB is a company that hires the highest number of Postgres contributors. I'm myself a PostgreSQL contributor. I'm also involved in the community in more administrative stuff. Like I'm the treasurer for PostgreSQL Europe. So I'm responsible of paying all the bills for all those events we do all over Europe. I'm also the founder of Postgres Women. Postgres Women is not even an organization. It has no legal existence, so that we don't have to manage the money, which is easier. But the evil plan of Postgres Women is first to spot the women in the community and then take them to go to events and then put them on stage. So that's our evil plan. At EDB, I'm kind of a tech leader about everything related to Postgres and the security of Postgres. And as I had still some free time, I'm a university teacher in Lyon since 2012, something like that. So I teach PostgreSQL in Lyon. So I have a blog, MyDB Notebook, where I write everything I want to remember later. So it's not for others, it's for me. But if others can learn one thing or two, that's great too. And also you will find the page that I call my tour page, because I'm a public speaker with over more than 100 conf talks given at the moment. So you can find my tour page and where I will be next time. I think that next time I will be speaking at Devox in Paris, and then I will go to Chicago for training about data modeling. And also, I'm a big fan of command line tools. Why? Because I was a production DBA, and I know that when it's 2 a.m. and nothing is working, unless you can, of course, you can connect to the faulty host, you don't have any GUI around. You just have your command line tools. And at 2 a.m., it's too late to learn how to use them. Those tools are a little more difficult to learn. It's a little slower to become comfortable with them, but once we are way more efficient than with any GUI you can find. So to help people go into PSQL, which is the only official SQL client for Postgres, I created this psqltips.org website. It's a very simple page that will give you at random a tip about PSQL. And how did I do that? I just took the PSQL documentation. Fun fact, I'm known over the world as an expert of PSQL just because I read the documentation. So you can do that too, I'm pretty sure. So we're here to talk about SQL and advanced SQL. There will be three very small parts. The first part, I will give you the rules I impose myself for the challenge. Then I will give you some techniques I use, and then I will tell you what I learned. And if we have some time, I will try to demonstrate how I think by solving the first Advent of Code challenge of 2024. So, first, Advent of Code. Do you know Advent of Code? Has everyone here solved all the challenges of 1 year of Advent of Code? No, me neither. It's very hard. But I'm very, very happy to say that back in 2023, I solved more than half of the challenges only using SQL. So, Advent of Code is a yearly code challenge during holiday season. And each day you have 2 challenges that are revealed. The second one is only revealed if you solve the first one. That's the first thing. And second, there is no obligation to solve them the day they are out. You can even go now and solve them. The problem with it is that it becomes harder and harder and harder and harder. But if you want to learn a code language, I think that's a great way to just make it work. Because you will learn by doing, and I love learning by doing. And also you will help the elves to have Santa be able to deliver toys, so that's very important. So there is no mandatory language. What you need is a Turing-complete language. And that's the only thing that is mandatory to solve Advent of Code. So I have a friend who decided to solve it each day with a different language. And yeah, you can do whatever you want. Most people pick the language they are the more comfortable with, which is okay, but it's so good to learn new things. So maybe for the first challenges, you can try with other languages. For example, I learned V by trying out the first challenges in V instead of SQL. So when people say Turing complete language, I'm like, hey, SQL is Turing complete. There is a formal proof that is really easy. There are 2 ways of achieving that with commentable expression, recursive commentable expression, or you can use recursivity with functions. So it's proved, it's mathematical, you can't go against that. So I said, yeah, SQL, I can do that. And then I said, okay, let's put some rules. I will write SQL only. No PL PGSQL, no PL Perl, no PL Java, and so on. Only SQL. But I am allowed Postgres flavored SQL. I don't have to be restricted to the implemented part of the SQL standard by Postgres. I am allowed SQL functions and procedures because SQL language allows functions and procedures. I can create as many tables as I want. I won't restrict myself on that. I can create data types and operators and whatever I want, as long as it's SQL. I won't use any extension because Postgres is extensible. You can create a lot of extensions. And after that, it's way too easy to solve the problems. So, and also, if I wanted to use extensions, I would have to check each time the source code to make sure it's only using SQL. So I decided to simplify the matter to not use extension at all. And I will use the very last version of Postgres. So as I said, I'm a Postgres contributor. So back in December 2022, I was running Postgres 16. Back in 2023, I was running Postgres 17. Now I'm running Postgres 18. So the latest Postgres version. So what did I learn? The first thing I learned is I know nothing because it was hard, really hard. And I was constantly referring to the documentation. So good thing I learned how to navigate the documentation. That's already good. But I wasn't aware that I was that ignorant of Postgres features, even though I'm a Postgres contributor. The third thing I learned is sad for me, but my brain loves to overcomplicate things. So, you know, you have 2 points and your brain is doing that before reaching the second point. That's exactly how my brain functions. And well, I just have to embrace it. And the fourth thing I learned is SQL is not meant to do that at all. That's not the purpose of SQL, but it can do it. If you have infinite paper and time, which might not be your case. So I'm not a very organized person, but fast, I learned that I had to structure my Git repo because I didn't want it to crumble. So first I created directories inside my repo. The first one was the language I wanted to solve the Advent of Code challenge with. And then inside the language, I had a year directory and then a day directory so that everything was sorted kind of. And then we will see an example, but the Advent of Code challenge gives you 2 inputs. The first one is the example that everyone has, and then it gives you the correct answer to the challenge with that short input. The second one is the full input that is personalized only for you, and the answer you will give depends on that input. So I created an example file, a full input file, and then I just used a copy to copy the files into a file called input so that each time I was running my script, I was using the same file. I didn't have to change my script each time. So here is an example of my repo. You see that I have the language, the year, the day, and then you have the input, example, full input, and then the solution, the script. So how can I load data? Because you have an input, you have to get that input. First thing is always keep the raw input. Actually, I even added something. I added an kind of auto-generated ID so that I was able to query my input table in the same order than it was in the input file. I simply use the SQL order copy, which is simple. And you see here that I called my files CSV, but Postgres doesn't care. You just give it the format and it will import it. So here I'm using the PSQL flavor of copy. So you simply, here I don't use any formalism. I will get for each line in the file, I will get a row with one column with the data. You see the table where I have data is called input and the column is called data. So this is an example of the example CSV for the first challenge of 2023. So you had some kind of strings with numbers in the middle. Then I had a problem. I wanted my script to be independent. First thing I thought about was, we have rollback. So great. Even with Postgres, you can roll back a create table or a drop table. So that's cool. But then for performance reason, I found out that I wanted to vacuum and analyze. So I wanted to clean and gather statistics on my data so that the optimizer takes the best path to reach that data. And you can't vacuum and analyze inside a transaction. So what I did is I created a schema named AOC and the number of the day. And then I created everything inside that schema. And then when it's over, you can drop the schema with cascading, meaning you will remove everything inside the schema. Don't forget the cascading. For performance reasons, you might want to use the right data type. So the ones I used more frequently were numbers, text, bit strings, because from time to time you have challenges where you have a series of 0 and 1. Ranges were very, very effective. So ranges in Postgres can be of numbers of dates, and just it's the beginning and the end of a range. And then I created some geometric data types, because from time to time you had to kind of drawing a map. And then with Postgres, you have built in geometric data types, points, lines, polygons, so that you can create really easily queries asking, is that point inside that polygon? Does that line cross that other one, or are they parallel, and so on? As I said, I found out after some days that I needed some performance, because from time to time, I even have a solution that I let run for 7 days and didn't answer. So first, vacuum analyze is a great way of achieving performance, solving some performance issue. I also added some indexes when needed, and also some multi-column indexes when needed. And I also had to create indexes on weird data types that I created myself. Or how do you create an index on a point? Does that make sense to create an index on a point? Yeah, sure. If you're looking for a point, it does make sense. And also I created partial indexes. So partial indexes in Postgres are indexes with a where clause, where you can say that, for example, you have a column A, and you just want to index when the value of that column A is equals to some value. So this is vacuum analyze. This is one of the index creations. So by default, Postgres will create a B-tree index. So this is a multi-column index. This is an index on a map. So as I said, sometimes you have to draw maps where I use, so the P is a point, and then you have coordinates. So 1 is Y and 0 is X. And then if you want to index points, then you want to be able to use B-trees. You will have to use GIST kind of indexes. So it depends on for geometrical data types, you will have to use other kind of indexes. And here you see it's also partial indexes, because I'm also only indexes the points where the value is equals to sharp. So this is how I work. So on the right, you have my script that I'm writing. On the left, you have the PSQL window. So I changed so this is Vim, obviously. So I changed my script on Vim, And then I use \i for input to play that script, so that I always have both ways of seeing them. As I said, I love PSQL, so that was simply normal to use it. And also, it's efficient and lightweight. And also, your eyes will thank you at the end of the day when you're working on a window like that. It has auto-completion, and also you have help on some SQL. So you can, if you use \h and the name of an SQL command, it will give you the exact syntax of that command. You also have description in PSQL. So if you use \df, df means describe function, with the name of the function, then it will give you all the kind of signatures you can get. So here you see you have different signatures for that function. I use a lot of generate series. Do you know the generate series function in PSQL? It's a function that will generate numbers or timestamp when you give the beginning and then you give the gap between two values. So it's very, very useful to generate a number of rows, for example. So here is an example. I wanted to generate all the coordinates for my map between the minimum of x, the maximum of x, the minimum of y, and the maximum of y. You can do that simply using that query. You can use this weird with ordinality here. So ordinality here means that you will generate things, but then it will give you the row number on top of it. Generated columns. So have you heard about generated columns in Postgres? So those are columns that depends on others, or depends on, auto increments is a special case, but let's say, so here, have you seen that syntax? Generated always as identity. This is the proper way in SQL to create an auto increment value. Why? Because on top of creating automatically the auto increment, it will make sure that no one can insert into that table, into that column. It has to use the auto increment. But sometimes you still want to override that constraint. You can override it. So that's something I learned. I knew about generated always as identity. I didn't know about overriding system value. How did I learn? Because I needed it at some time. So I looked at it. Genetic columns. So here it was a challenge where you had, each apes had some cards in their hand, and you had to find out if you had two entries, two hands, and you had to find out which one was winning, something like that. So first, here you have the generated always as identity, so the ID. Then you have the raw data. And the raw data was split into two parts. So here you see the use of regex split to array. And I take the first part as the hand and the second part as the bet. So you see also that I have, I cast it into integer at the end. And then here you have other stored column where I say, is there any AS assets in the hand? Is there any king, any queen, and so on? And this is the syntax of generated columns. So generated always as an expression and stored. For example, you could have a generated always as column to generate the age given the date of the birth date. The problem is it won't be refreshed every year. So I use a lot of regular expression because when you get an input, you have to parse it. So in Postgres, there are two operators for regular expressions. The first one is tilde. And if you want a non-kind sensitive regular expression, you will use tilde and star. So as with any regular expression, when you have a regular expression, well, you have a problem that can be solved with regular expression, you have actually two problems. So yeah, it's always a curse to use regular expression, but they are so efficient that there's no other way to parse input. There are a lot of functions. One of them is regex light, just to, which is the equivalent of the tilde here. But you have a lot just to count, to give you the number of the index of the first character where your regep match. If it matches, to replace a full part of a string. The split to array we have already seen. Split to table works the same way. So instead of giving you back an array, it will give you back a table. And the substring. So here is an example. You create a regular expression, meaning any character, the uppercase or lowercase letter, repeated 4 times. It does not have to be the same. And then it will tell you if it matches. For example, this is the one I used to see if there was any king in the hand that was given to me. And then I discovered something. Have you heard about window functions? Okay. Window functions are a very advanced way to do aggregates in SQL. But you can go further. You can use a filter clause inside a window function. So it kind of apply a where clause to an aggregate function without applying it to the whole result. It's useful to pivot a table, and you can use it to count a particular number of things. For example, if you know, let's say you have a table where you have the lunch options for someone, for people. And let's say they have choices between vegetarian, fish, and meat. Then with the filter clause in one query, in the same result, you will get the number of people having reserved the vegetarian options, the number of people having reserved the fish option and the meat option in the same query, just using the filter clause and window function aggregate. So this is how you use it. It's when you use count, as I said, it's a little particular. It's the same thing that when you use count case when condition then one end. I think it's way more elegant to use the first form. So here you have, I created a table with numbers between 1 and 10. This is the generate series part. And then I filter, I will count the total number of rows, and then I will count the total number of rows where I is smaller than 5. I will have 4. So you can, here you can't see how useful it can be because it's a very obvious use case. But here it's a more advanced use case where I used it just to see when a value was null. How many rows did I have with a null value? So this query, 8 lines of code. is the elegant way of doing something that I did with 4 CTEs and 63 lines of code. Exact same result with the exact same input. And then we come to CTE, common table expression. Have you already used CTEs? So CTEs are really important for readability of your code because it's kind of a subselect that you put on top of your query. Why would you do that? Because that's something a human needs to read first. It also helps to iterate because you can do recursive CTE and you can change CTEs. Just remember to choose your names wisely, to name your columns because that's easier to remember and debug your code afterwards. And don't forget the as keyword that is not optional here. And please add comments. So as I said, SQL is string complete. SQL is code, so it needs comments. So here, for example, I created several cities with comments, and then I used the actually I changed them, one out of them, and at the end I just need to call the last one to get the final result. So recursive CTE. Have you already used recursion in SQL with recursive CTE? So it's not the most enjoying part of SQL, let's put it that way, but it's doable. So first, you need the first query where you will state what is my first value, and then you will onion all with the recursive query where you will use the previous value. So you see here from T, I'm calling my CTE inside the second query, the select n plus 1 from T. So this recursive CTE will give me the sum of all numbers between 1 and 100. No, 1 and 99, actually. So the starting point, onion all, and then the recursion. There's another way to do recursion that is easier for my brain because I always was struggling with that syntax. So I found another way, which is way less smart and way less impressive, but still works. And also that's something you need to learn if you want to try advent of code. Be proud of yourself if you have the right result, no matter how you reach it, because that's the right result. We don't care if your code is not the best and so on. You already achieved more than a lot of people by just solving it. So don't be too harsh on yourself. So the first thing is you create a table. Then you create a stored procedure. And you will insert data into the table. So that procedure only inserts data. Then you will create a query to generate calls to the stored procedure. So that each time the procedure will be called, it will add data. And you can use, so in PSQL, you can generate queries, then you can execute using \g exec. So you will play everything in one go. So just you don't want all the code to be written in your output, so you might want just to set the create variable to on between your call. So here is when you put it all together, and you see that, and at the end, you will get the exact same thing that's a recursive CTE. So it's way slower, it's way less smart than the other way of doing, but it still works. And when you are in the process of creating a very elaborated SQL query, that way of doing is way easier to use. Do you know about the nullif function? So this function is weird. And I struggled for a long time to understand what was its point, just why someone decided to create that weird function. So the null function is a standard SQL function. If argument 1 equals argument 2, then it will return null. And else it will return argument 1. And I was struggling with who was weird enough to create that and say, we need that into the SQL standard. And then I found out that when you're importing data and you have null values, and the null values are codified with some kind of string, then that's a way of doing it. That's a way of creating real null value into your database. So here, for example, when the value is just a space, then either if it's a space, it will put null, else it will give the value. I already talked about comments. Don't be shy about comments in SQL. You can, whoops. You can put a lot of comments in your code. You can use the --star codification for comments. I think I just think it's prettier than the --, comment version, but you can do whatever you like. Just be sure that I write comments before writing code because it helps me understanding what I'm trying to do. Because this is the problem with SQL. Instead of telling the computer how to do things, you will have to tell the computer what you want, which is way more difficult. So how can you learn? The first thing is you can read the documentation. It's very, very fat, so you're lucky. You have a lot to learn. You can read others' code. So here there are 3 other people who did it in SQL last year, the year before, and even the year before. And you can discuss with others. Also, you can follow people on the social networks where they will normally when you achieve a challenge, you're so proud that you post it. So you will find things there. Also, if you were attentive here, you see that I talked to my dad about some challenges. He was doing them in Java, but we discussed some things, and actually he helped me in several things. So the first thing is don't put pressure on yourself. You're doing Advent of Code because it's fun. If it's not fun anymore, stop. That's the first thing. Of course, you might learn, but the first goal is having fun. Again, don't be too harsh of yourself. If your code works, it's already great. You don't necessarily need your code to be the best. Of course, you don't have to wait for December to do it. You can do the previous years whenever you want. And what I wanted to do is just show you how we can solve the first one of 2024 that I haven't solved yet, even though I put some thoughts on my paper already because I want to feel stupid in front of you. So, I need to stop presenting and represent because I need you to see my terminal. And yeah, I'm mirroring. No, I'm not. Okay. So, where is my terminal? Okay, it crashed. Okay, so first we'll go to...
Just a moment. Can you just share it via StreamYard, please?
It's not sharing?
No,
Okay.
no longer.
Present, share screen, allow, entire screen, share. Okay. So, first, here it is. So you see that I'm not joking. I haven't solved anything this year. So let's go to the first challenge. I won't tell you the great story about elves and how they're trying to save Christmas. But what you see is here, you have the example input. What you need to do is sort the first list, the first vertical list, sort the second vertical list, do a difference between those two items that are matching, and then you will sum the differences. Well, the absolute value of the differences. So, what do I have? So you see, I have my maybe it's better that way. So you see, I have my 4 files, the example, full, and input, and I have some kind of template for the SQL one. I will separate my screen as I always do, go to the right directory. And launch PSQL. Oh, it's not the right version. Okay. It decided to use the wrong version. It's okay. It should work still. So here I will open my my file. So you see I have some kind of a template where I drop my schema here and then recreate the schema, set the search path so that automatically everything is created into that schema. Then I create my table with only a simple data, my ID, and I will just get that into my table. So let's do that first. Now, if I query my table, so table is an SQL, a standard SQL command that gives you a select star without where clause. So I have my data here. I don't want the data that way. I want a separation between the first the first item and the second, and they are both separated by 3 spaces here. So what will I use? Do you have any idea? Yeah, I will create a generated column. So I will call it value 1. So it's an integer normally, I hope. And then I need a way to split. I will use the Postgres documentation, and here I see that we have that function. It takes a string, then a pattern, and then you get an array with the things that were separated. So let's apply that. So my value is called data. My data is called data. And then I need 3 spaces. Okay. I need to close that. And then I just want to keep the first one for that column. It's a string, not an integer, so I have to do a conversion. And then the most important thing that we always forget is there is a stored keyword at the end. So if I do that, will it work? Yeah. Okay, let's add a second one. Hmm. Hmm. So I want it to be called value 2. I want the second one. Okay. I'm not sure I had, yeah, I had step. So first step, we have both values. Now we want to join those values, but we want to sort them, and then we want to join. So let's do that. So I will create a CTU, a CTE with, yes, I will do it that way. Okay, so I will create an ID with the row number when I will have sorted the first value. So how to do that? First, don't remember we need the as keyword. So I want to select value 1, and then I want the row number. Do you know how you get the row number in Postgres? There's a function called row number. I know. It's a window function, so it's not that easy to use. And here is the syntax we will have to use. Function name over window definition. You will see, it's easy. Over, and the window definition. My window is the column. It's okay. And then I want to order by value 1. So in Postgres, in SQL standard, when you don't say the order, it's always the ascending order. So I don't have to put it. But if you're more comfortable adding the ascending order, that's fine. So from input, let's see what we get from that. Did I manage to sort? I guess I didn't save. Okay. So it's sorted. And I have an ID. It's sorted. So now I need to do that with the second one. So we don't need the with keyword, but we need a comma here. We will use another name, obviously. We will sort by value 2. And I will join on, I forgot 2. I will join here. Let's see what we get. Okay, seems great. Now we just need to make the difference between the values. So we said we wanted the sum of the absolute value of the difference. Okay. So Advent of Code tells us that the correct answer is 11. Let's see. Yeah. But don't you think that code is way too long for just a simply sorting 2 lists and be making a small difference between? That's too long. We will make it better. Yeah, it works. So we keep the generated columns because we need them, obviously. But then we found out that there is something in Postgres called array ag. This is an aggregation. It will aggregate all the rows into an array. And as it's an aggregate function, we can use a sort. So how can we do that? I have an array, everything is sorted. So now I can do that with the second part. Oops. So I have everything. Then now I need to change that array into rows again. There's a function to do that in Postgres. It's called a nest. And there's something that is not written in the documentation, but I know because I looked at the source code, is when you have a nest in two arrays and the arrays are of the same dimension and same cardinality, then they will be processed in parallel and they will match each other. So we can use that information to make things a little faster. And then I want on top of that, so I could use a CTE, but here it's really just a simple subquery, so I won't use a CTE, but you're welcome to use a CTE should you want it. Hey, come on, be nice. And we will select the sum from the absolute value from A minus B. Will it work? Yes, it does. So yeah, I just wanted to demonstrate you my way of thinking when I'm writing SQL. When you write SQL code, it's not like you're writing all your code in one go and then you test it. You have to proceed step by step because your brain can't handle the whole complexity of an SQL query. So you will really have to go step by step and refine what you want. Because as I said, SQL is a language where you have to explain what you want, not how to achieve the goal. So thank you. And yeah, I'll be available for questions.
Is there any question?
Yeah, thank you. I want to know what's the weirdest thing you build with PSQL.
Okay, so what I did was for the challenge 2023, we had kind of a Tetris game to code. So I did it in SQL. And it took me 2 weeks. And 2 weeks working 70% of the time on it.
So we've got a question from Portugal because you know that we've got also an office in Portugal. So the question is, what will be your advice and or resources to someone who would like to learn SQL?
Depends on the level. if someone is completely newbie, does not know anything, even the select command, then there is this SQL murder mystery. And now I think that something revived the thing, creating SQL Noir. It's the same thing. So you have to query a database to find out who is the murderer. So it's a great game to learn SQL. And if you think that you can't do it, just so you know, my daughter did that at 12 and live on stage while speaking English.
No pressure.
So
no
you can do
pressure.
it. The second is PG exercises. So it's the first challenges of PG exercises are easy, but then it becomes harder. We go up to window functions and recursive CTE. And the good thing that I love with PG exercise is that if you're stuck, you have a hint button. It won't give you the answer. It will just give you hints just to help you proceed to the answer. And when you have found the solution, then you will have a whole text explaining other solutions, other ways to achieve the same goal, and discussion on which one is the best for performance reasons or depending on the kind of input you have and so on. So this is a great resource. If you're new, totally new to SQL processing or data processing, there is this book that I love. It's called A Strange Moon. And it's a novel. It's not a tech book. It's a novel. The story is a guy, he's an intern into a company. This company is analyzing data from NASA. This data set is a real one that you can use to proceed the same SQL queries that the hero is writing at the same time. And it's actually a great novel about what it is to be a DBA in production, how you can help developers by being a good DBA, and so on. So I love this book, A Curious Moon.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other question? Don't think so. So once again, I think we could give a round of applause to Laetitia.
Thank you.